Hey guys, my name is Ryan and this is Blockchain Markets, the channel where I do independent cryptocurrency research. And today I'm going to talk about Bluzelle. So before I start, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't been in this channel, as I said, it's a channel where I go through different blockchain projects and crypto and existing blockchain projects and ICOs as well. And I do an unbiased and independent research. So I'm not getting paid for anything of this, so you can be sure that on the one hand, I follow everything that is out there about that specific project, and I do my own unbiased research. So as I said, today we're going to talk about Bluzelle. Very exciting project. I believe it has a lot of potential, but let's dive into it so I can tell you in detail why I think it has such a big potential. Before we start, remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you can get the next videos, and share on social media also this video so you can get so other people can know also about cryptocurrencies and this awesome technology which is blockchain. So let's start. Bluzelle. What is Bluzelle? What are these guys doing, and where are they going? So Bluzelle is basically a decentralized and on-demand database for dApps. So everything started, and let's go way back in time when so I'll tell you a bit of how everything started. The CTO of Bluzelle, together with the CEO, were doing some projects in Canada for some banks like HSBC and other companies. And they were doing some dApps on top of Ethereum platform. So then their apps were, of course, decentralized. But then they noticed that at the moment they had to store the data, even though it was a decentralized app, the data had to be centralized. So they had to use something like Azure of Microsoft, or other companies will have to use Oracle or Rackspace if you're a bit smaller, or Amazon Web Services as well. So then they thought, well, that it was not there as a developer, from the developer's point of view, was not the most logical step to use to put everything on a centralized database. So then they thought, well, what they had to do is basically they had to as the CEO said in a conference that I just saw online, he said that they had to basically blockchainify Microsoft Azure, and was not the best solution. So then they thought, well, a lot of other developers of dApps will encounter the same problem. They'll just start the decentralized app, and then they'll just stumble upon this problem. And so a lot of people will have that. The more the blockchain platforms grow, the more dApps there will be. So then the bigger the problem it is. So they decided to start with Bluzelle. So that's a bit of how everything started, and that's the main problem that I'm trying to tackle. So then you see in this diagram. By the way, if you want to see the whole article that I wrote about this, the whole analysis, you can click the link in the description. I'm also going to leave a link to my cryptocurrency investment course, so you can also see it there. So as you see here, this is a diagram that shows the current internet versus the decentralized internet. For applications, you have Facebook, and now the decentralized, you might have something like Status, for example. When it comes to OS, you have something like Windows. If you want to look at mobiles, you have iOS or Android as well, or Mac in your computer as well. Now, in a decentralized internet, you have something like Ethereum, a platform that's decentralized. Now, there are others, of course, like Neo, EOS, Cardano, A-Chain, and others. And when it comes to file storage, you would, as a developer, you will store your files in AWS, and in the new decentralized, you will do it with Filecoin or other coins that do the storage as well. Now, when it comes to databases or the data storage and management, nowadays companies use Oracle. As I said before, like big companies use Oracle. Now, smaller companies use things like Rackspace or the same AWS or Azure of Amazon. Oh, sorry, of Microsoft. Now, in this, they want to be basically the Oracle of the decentralized internet. So, if we move forward here, we see that in the this is something that they showed that was very interesting in the white paper. They said that within 5 years there will be over 20 billion connected devices. Yeah, that's true. I mean, everybody has like 2 or 3 at least. So then a lot of my friends and you probably, or other friends of yours or family have like their mobile, the laptop, and maybe a smart TV, maybe an iPad. So a lot of people have like more than one device. That's clear. And then what they see is that in the next 5 years, more than 20 billion connected devices. That all those devices, of course, will cause a problem. All of them will require the generation, the management, the storage, and the retrieval of enormous amounts of data. So in the old world, you would manage things this way. So you would have a single system where a very centralized way of doing things that usually companies would have on their own premises. They would have the database. I once worked in a company that was not a big company, but was a tech company, and they were selling. They were having the database in one room, in a small room, but anyway, it was really noisy and everything was really slow. Now, you can imagine also that database also managed applications that our colleagues in other countries had to use, one of them being their website. So it was, for us, was not that slow, but for our colleagues that were not on premise on the same office that we were, it was really slow. So that was one of the problems. Now in today's scenario, that moved more to cloud service. So then they don't have, like, these companies don't have the on premise the hardware with the where they store the database. They move that to the cloud. Now the cloud, as we all know, is just someone else's computer. We just move the problem from here to someone else's computer. Now it's still centralized. So if that database gets hacked, the whole system collapses as well. Why? Because of this is one of the main things that decentralization is trying to tackle, the security. You still have one main central entity that is managing all your data. So then imagine a scenario where you manage to develop an app, and that app became a company. You hired other people, you have customers, you have hundreds of customers, you have thousands of customers, and it's growing, and you're storing everything in a centralized database, and then something happens with that database. So I'm not saying it's only a hack, but something happened. Like, could be any problem with the company that supplies the service, even though it's in the cloud. You have to trust them. And now what Bluzelle, it's using blockchain technology. What Bluzelle is it's actually proposing is something like this. So basically, you have the application, and we're going to go into more detail now, sends everything to different nodes. So it's decentralized. So now let's go more into what it is. Now you can go through the article and you can read it, but I'll explain it briefly. So basically, the way it works is that you create your dApp, and then you'll be able to find Bluzelle in the ecosystem where you are. So if you're using Ethereum, you will see that one of the solutions for decentralized databases within that environment will be Bluzelle. So you can just seamlessly plug it. And same thing with Neo. They're working now with Neo. So if you are a Neo dApp developer or an Ethereum dApp developer, you'll be able to use Bluzelle and use a decentralized database. Now, Bluzelle is trying to tackle three different problems. One is the security. As you see here, if something happens, the whole system crumbles down. And you don't want to have that. The reliability. Also, as I said before, in on-premises systems, it's not reliable. It's too slow, and then people that are not waiting, they're not willing to wait nowadays. So it has to be something reliable that always works. If you are a developer and then something doesn't work, you're just not going to use it, right? And the third problem is scalability. So if you create a dApp and it becomes super successful, now you could be also a company that creates a dApp, so they have also more resources to make it successful. But let's say it's you as a developer. Now you don't want to have the problem that it's not scalable, what you just created. So this is something else also that they're looking to. So it's three main things that they're focusing in is security, reliability, and scalability. That's why they're using blockchain. Now, how do they do this thing that we see here? How do they use a decentralized system? Basically, what is at the core of Bluzelle's technology is something called swarming. So what is swarming, or what is a swarm? Now, let's go to the white paper so we see exactly what they say about it. In order to achieve performance, reliability, and scalability, Bluzelle implements swarming technologies. A swarm is a large group of nodes that work together to store and manage data. Nodes in this swarm can go down, and new nodes can come up with minimal impact on the network. So I want you to think of swarms as galaxies. So if you see here, this would be so Bluzelle. Think of Bluzelle as the whole universe here. So by coming into consensus on a swarm level, you make sure that the performance of the overall network is way faster than normal. Now, the other thing also that I want to talk about is that these guys are also gonna use sharding. If you don't know what sharding is, I'll talk about it specifically on a video. That's a long topic, but basically what these guys will do is not just storing all the data in a swarm, but then basically tear it down and then break it down in so you have a piece of the data here, piece of the data there, here in another swarm, and then that's also, why is that good? Because it makes it faster, as I said, but it's also distributed. So if something happens with this swarm, let's say this group of nodes go down. So if the whole system or the whole group of nodes that make a swarm go down, that anyway, if that happens, the whole system doesn't go down, because that was storing just one part of the whole overall data. These other guys will still manage to complete the whole set of data, and it's way more difficult to hack, because you hack one, and that doesn't mean you would have to hack basically all of the swarms. Now let's get into who would use this system of Bluzelle. Bluzelle basically, what they've said is that they don't want to go for enterprise, but they want to go for mid-size and smaller companies. I think that it's a clever move, because big companies or the enterprise, they already manage the database, and they're very slow in taking decisions. So then if you want them to adopt something that is really cutting edge, like blockchain, that's going to take probably at least a couple of years. And so if you want to start with people actually using it, it's very clever of them to start with the early adopters. On the other hand, also these big corporations use something like Oracle, and then they just pay, and then they don't care about that much about centralization. Now for dApp developers, those on the one hand are their early adopters, and they see the benefit, they have the problem, so it's a win-win situation. So that on the one hand, that's very clever, and on the other hand, also, who would be on the other side? So that you are a developer, you consume the service, but who are these swarms? As I said before, swarms are a group of nodes, a group of computers. So that the idea is that, think of a Airbnb of decentralized databases. So basically, you and me can have storage on our computers, have space on our CPUs that we don't use always. So we can, that's the same idea that you can use that to mine. In this case, you can use that extra space that you have in your computer or in your device to become part of a swarm. So then you give that away. Now it is secure, of course, and then you can read that in the white paper and the reasons why. The CTO did if you go to their website, bluzelle.com, then you'll see that in the blog that the CTO did a specific blog post and a video on how they make sure that it's 100% secure. So then when you download the protocol to give access to, so then other people won't hack your computer. But you can follow that on their website. So who are the main competitors of Bluzelle? According to what they say, are storage and Filecoin. Now, both of them, what they say is that basically solutions that allow you to storage the files. But what they do, it's further than that. It's not just dumping files. It's a complete decentralized database that you're having there. Now the other thing is I'm going to go through this a bit later, and I'll show you where they are now. So the ICO in the beginning of the year in January, and where they're now, they're basically now ready in April, in late April, they'll be part of the testnet of NEO, and in July they'll be having also it says August here, but I just checked on their website and they say that in July people or dApps developers will be basically able to start using their services still on a beta version. Now the team, I'm not going to go into much detail, but what I found is that it's very experienced team. They have more than 10 people. As I said, the CEO and the CTO started the company working from Canada with this big clients, and then they decided to move to Singapore. So then the company is basically within Singapore and Canada. The CEO worked for big companies like Disney. He has also experience as working for DC company, and he also has a entrepreneurial experience because he created a story bundle, and then with that he made several deals with other big companies like Warner Bros, MGA Entertainment, DreamWorks, and others. Now the CTO has been working for a long time already, since 1996 as a software engineer, and then he has been the lead software engineer at companies like Hewlett Packard and the gaming company Stinger. Now, if you want to see like the specifics of the rest of the team, you can see it on their website. Now, they also have very strong advisors. You can see that on the website as well. Now, let's get into more the investment opportunity and concerns. And finally, I'll say what my verdict is. So what I think is that in terms of opportunities, there are a lot of new blockchain platforms starting this year and next year. So we see Ethereum, of course, has been the biggest one so far, where you can build dApps, but others will come now. Neo is growing very fast, and their ecosystem is also growing a lot. So then they'll be adding more and more dApp developers. Cardano also, it's another one. Silica, NEM, HPB, high performance blockchain also allows, and EOS as well. I didn't put it there, but so what's going to happen is that that is going to bring much more developers developing dApps. So what's going to happen is that because of those platforms that allow dApps to be created, that's going to cause an exponential growth on the amount of dApps. Now, all those developers will face the same problem that these guys faced a few years ago when they could only find a centralized database. They'll find out basically that a centralized database doesn't cut it for decentralized apps. Now, my concern, one is that one of the competitors is BigChain DB. Now they focus on big enterprises, on giving the same service, but to big enterprises. My concern is that they could basically branch out to more mid-size and smaller companies. Now, I think in the short term, that's unlikely to happen because everything is just starting now. So then what I think is going to happen is that BigChain DB will decide to just stay focused and then try to get as many enterprises as clients. Because what's going to happen if they don't do that, they'll just lose focus and they probably won't achieve their goals. So in the short and mid-term, I think that's not a big concern. Now I see that in GitHub also, then the team of Bluzelle haven't put a lot of code yet. Now this could mean that they haven't done a lot, or could also mean that they have done a lot, but they just want to put it there once they have much more to show. I think it's more on the latter than not having done anything. I see that in other platforms that they have been quite open, and I can see that they're working. It's just in the code. They need to just put more on GitHub. So what's the conclusion? What's the investment conclusion? I think that Bluzelle is a very, very strong project, and it has a very experienced team. It solves a real problem that is likely to become way bigger in the near future. I also think that the strategy of focusing first on early adopters, on developers of dApps, it's clever because they'll basically spread the word, and they're going to use it, they're going to like it, and they're going to talk to other developers who might work for other companies. So then those companies end up using Bluzelle as well. I think also that something else that I found out in a talk that the CTO and the CEO gave is that he said something very interesting. Is they realized that a decentralized database is not only useful for decentralized apps, but also for centralized apps. So eventually they also want to start accepting or be also a real solution for centralized apps. That's very interesting because the market is huge. Now they don't have to wait only for these companies to use to have decentralized apps that they need. So then they need a decentralized database, but they also go for the other ones that are not dApps. Well, you get what I'm trying to say. Now the other thing is, and to close, I think that Bluzelle is part of this selected group of blockchain infrastructure projects that are basically building the roads where all the decentralized apps and all the things that will happen afterwards in the blockchain sphere will happen. So things like all these blockchain projects like Neo, like Cardano, like EOS, high performance blockchain, Silica, decentralized exchanges also are part of that ecosystem, and some others. I'll make another video on that, but those for me I think they are just building the basis for what it will be the future of blockchain. So I believe that Bluzelle is also a big player in that sphere. So I think that the risk is lower because they basically are building the roads. Now it could be also that some dApps don't work, but that doesn't mean that let's say half of the dApps don't work. But that doesn't mean that Bluzelle will go down, right? Because they are at the bottom, they are the road. So now the price now it's 29 cents at the time I'm making this. I wrote this article. You can follow the price also here. I'll embed a graph. And the overall investment rating that I give to Bluzelle, it's a very positive, both in the short and in the long term. So that's it, guys. This was my review of Bluzelle. I think it's a very exciting project. And let me know if you have any questions, if you want me to do another review of another coin or an upcoming ICO. Subscribe subscribe to the channel, sorry, and that's it. See you guys in the next video. Bye.